Hello and welcome to Metta Sutta, verse 6. Naparo parannikubbeta, nati manyeta, kattachina kanchi, biarosana, partighasanya, nanyamanyassa dukkamichaya. I'll do that again, sharing the text with you. Here we are. Naparo parannikubbeta, nati manyeta kattachina kanchi, biarosana partighasanya nanyamanyassa dukkamichaya. Naparo param nikubbeta. Let me get my iPad screen for you. There we are. Nikubbeta is from the root kri. So nikubbeta means either to humiliate somebody or to deceive them. Kri, to do. Ni often means down. Ni kri, to do down. Well, so in English you humiliate somebody by putting them down, or you can deceive somebody or swindle them. It's often called doing them down, not doing a fair deal with them, doing them down. So this verb has both meanings, to put somebody down and to do somebody down. Ni kri. The kri in Pali is a slightly irregular verb. I won't go into the detail of it here. We'll do that when we do formal grammar. But the optative is kubbeta. Let one do, may one do. So nikubbeta is the optative of doing down, or putting down, deceiving, swindling. So na nikubbeta, let him not swindle or humiliate. Now para, one of the meanings of para is other. So when in English we say let not one do that to another, one another, in Pali and Sanskrit you talk about another, not one another, but another. So na paro paran nikubbeta, so you get the nominative paro, that's the subject of the verb, and the object of the verb is param. So na paro param nikubbeta, let not one do down another, or literally, let not another swindle or humiliate. So na paro param nikubbeta. Nati manyeta kattachi na kanchi. The root man is to thinking or mind, the same root as our word mind. Atiman, we had it in the first verse of the Metta Sutta. If you're atimani, you're arrogant, you're over-minded, you have an over-high concept, an over-high opinion of yourself, you're atimani. It's a class 4 verb, which in Sanskrit means, in Sanskrit grammar, that you don't say manati, but manyati. You insert a y there. In fact, it's an atmanepada verb in Sanskrit, so manyate. In Pali, that ny, the nya, becomes a double tilde nya. Manyati. Now, atimanyati, to over-mind. Ati, over or in excess. So as a verb, it means to hold somebody in contempt, to regard, have your idea in your mind. You've got this high opinion of yourself with a correspondingly contemptuous opinion of others. So nati manyeta, that means let one not despise or hold in contempt. Kattachi nakanchi. Interrogative pronoun ko, and if we learnt, put a chi on the end of it, and that ko means who as an interrogative, asking a question who, but ko chi means anyone, whoever it may be. And the accusative of that is kam. Distinguish well, kim is a neuter, meaning what, neuter, same as always in the nominative and the accusative, kim, but the masculine is kam. So anyone in the accusative is, you run the words together like this, kanchi, and it's also correct to write kamchi, but it's more common even in the Devanagari script to write kanchi as one word with an n tilde, the palatized kanchi. So nati manyeta, let not one despise, kattachi, in any way, nakinchi, not anybody. You have a double negative here, that's fine. Nakanchi, not anyone, in any way. In Sanskrit, kutra, it's an interrogative, means where. In Pali, it becomes katta. And just as we have ko meaning who and kochi meaning anybody, so we have katta meaning where and kattachi means anywhere. But it doesn't only mean anywhere in the sense of place, it also means in any way, anyhow, in any manner. That's what it means here, kattachi, in any manner. So nati manyeta kattachi nakanchi. Let one not despise, kattachi, in any way, nakanchi, not anyone. You may think there's an extra not in there. Okay, there is an extra not. You're allowed to in Pali. Oops, sorry. Vyarosana patighasanya nanyamanyassa dukkamichaya. Vyarosana. The root rus, Sanskrit rush, means to get angry. And one of the verbal nouns in Sanskrit, rushana, which in Pali becomes rusana. Arusana, getting angry. Arusana, the means towards or to. Here it has the sense of getting angry at somebody, directing your anger onto somebody. Arusana. And this has the further prefix vi, and that vi becomes by santi not vi but via, and very often, in fact more commonly than not in Pali, where you have a via prefix, which is formed by the vi plus a, becomes via. And typically in Pali that V changes to a B, so it becomes bia. So that B there is originally the V prefix, V arusana, bia rusana. Just means the V doesn't really add much here, getting angry. Occasionally a suffix can, quite often actually, a suffix can be added to a verb, often profoundly changing the meaning, sometimes not changing the meaning at all, sometimes having a subtly emphatic meaning. For example, in English, if you eat something and if you eat it up, using up doesn't really change the meaning, but it gives a sense of completion to it. Eat it all up. So sometimes the verbal prefixes do that same kind of thing, adding a slight modality, a slight tone to what is being said. So biarusana suggests a splitting apart, so either bursting with anger or getting angry in such a way as to create a split or to make a separation between you. This is just maybe over-translating here. This is just to give you an idea of what these prefixes can mean. So biarosana means getting angry, but specifically getting angry at somebody. Not an internal anger, but the arusana, the externally directed anger. Biarusana, it is a feminine noun ending in a long a, and you will be wondering, why is this in the nominative form, biarusana, when it ought to be in the instrumental? By anger. Same with the following word, pratigahasanya, biarusana. In Sanskrit, feminines ending in a long a make their instrumental in aya. Oops, it's making funny shapes. Aya. In Pali, that aya becomes aya. Nothing to do with the dative of the short a. Dukkaya samvartati. This is coincidentally, superficially the same. In fact, it's an instrumental. Occasionally, and especially in poetry, and especially if the poet has got a few more syllables than he needs, you're allowed to drop off the final ya. It's done not often, probably, I don't know if it's ever done in prose, may have been, but mostly you'd see it in poetry. So it's the biarusanaya instrumental shortened to biarusana. So by anger, so let nobody, humiliate / swindle somebody, or despise somebody by anger, or because of a fit of rage, is what it means. By anger, by reason of anger. Biarusanaya, shortened to biarusana. Pratigahasanya. Pratigahasanya. Now, it's from the root han, past participle hatta, means to kill or to strike, incidentally cognate with our English word hit. Hatta, hit. The h was originally a g. It was originally gun. And sometimes it drops the n. So at the end of a compound, that can just become g. The pratiga, prati, Sanskrit prati, pratiga. This prati prefix has the meaning of against, not necessarily opposition, but against. You're leaning against a wall. You have two arguments, one against another. You have if you answer somebody, the bachasuti, prati, you sound back to him. It often has the sense of counter, as in a counterbalance, a counterweight, or with regard to. So it's the prefix of relationality, one thing, in response or counterbalancing or in return for another, that meaning prati. So pratiga is then striking back or hitting back. It's the idea of, having this response of aversion. Something happens, you don't like it, and rather than just accepting it, you pratiga, hit back. The patigha is often used to mean aversion or disgust, revulsion, hate that, get back at it, patigha. And the sanya is the sanya that we know, meaning basically cognition. Sanya. It's in Sanskrit sanya. It's exactly cognize, sanya, cognize. It's the same, etymologically the same word. It means cognition. But in this verse, the patigha sanya is nothing to do with the cognition. Here it just means out of a sense of. So patigha sanya means out of a sense of revulsion. Or patigha sanyaya. This is the same as byarusana, shortened from byarusanaya, the instrumental. If it were written in full, it would be patigha sanyaya. Mean sanyaya, by a sense, patigha, opposition or revulsion, meaning by a sense or because of a sense of revulsion. So saying this in ordinary prose, it would be byarusanaya patigha sanyaya, through directing anger at somebody or a sense of revulsion or aversion. Nanyamanyassa dukkhamichaya. Now, in the last verse, I spoke about the root ish, and he wishes is ichhati, optative in Sanskrit, ichet then, and in Pali, icheya, which is what we have here. Icheya, the last word in the verse. Icheya meaning let one wish. So na icheya, let him not wish. Dukkham icheya, na dukkham icheya, let him not wish suffering. Now we have the anyamanyassa. At the beginning of this verse, remember we had paro param, other meaning one another. Exactly the same applies with anya, one another. But there's a difference, slight difference phonetically. If you have paro param, one another, you'd expect to have anyo, anyam. But when you get an anyo followed by an anyam, the o changes to am, not because it's grammatically accusative, it's not. It remains nominative, exactly as paro param remains nominative. This is a purely phonetic mutation, because it's easier to pronounce. This kind of thing happens in Pali. A nominative flipping to an accusative is very, very rare. It's only an apparent accusative. In fact, I think this is pretty much a one-off, where you get a noun actually directly appearing to change case for euphony. But this is one of them, maybe the only one. Certainly it's the only common one. So instead of anyo anyassa, say anyamanyassa. So anyam na anyam anyassa dukkhamichaya, na ichaya, let him not wish. Anyassa dukkham, another's suffering. So na, now doing it without sandhi, na anyo anyassa dukkham ichaya, let not one wish for the suffering of another. That becomes nanyamanyassa dukkhamichaya. Now, you'll know the general phonetic rule in Pali that you do not have a long vowel followed by a double consonant. It normally shortens. This is a bit of an exception here. We have nanyam. We would have expected that to be nanyam, na anyam, nanyam. This is just a rare exception to the rule. From the na-a in Sanskrit, of course, it would always become long, whatever follows it. This is slightly irregular in that long vowel, nanyam anyasa dukkamichaya. So in nanyam anyasa dukkamichaya, you've got two slight irregularities. One is the retention of the long vowel, and the other is the apparent change from nominative to accusative. I stress only apparent, is a purely euphonic change. So I'll read the verse out to you again slowly twice. I'll bring back the text version for you. There we are. But see if you can follow it without reading it on the screen. Naparo parannikubbeta nati manyeta kattachina kanchi Biarusana Pratighasanya Nanyamanyasa Dukkamichaya. And once more. Naparo Parannikubbeta Natimanyeta Kattachina Kanchi Biarusana Pratighasanya Nanyamanyasa Dukkam Ichaya. That concludes this video.